I knew something was off the second I walked into the shop and saw my name tag already pulled off the locker. No one said anything. The break room chatter died out like someone yanked the plug. Everyone just kept their eyes down or glued to the floor. That's when I saw her, Kelsey Dunham. First day on the job, wearing a blazer like this was some kind of office park, not a theme park where rides rattle and squeal louder than the kids. She was waiting by my workstation with a manila envelope in her hand and a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Elaine," she said, like we'd been friends forever, "let's step into the conference room for a moment. No pleasantries, no warning, no reason." Just 10 minutes later, I was sitting across from her while she slid the termination papers toward me like she was dealing cards. "I've been reviewing team structures and risk profiles," she said smoothly, not even looking at me. "Given upcoming inspections and modernization goals, we're simplifying legacy systems oversight. Effective today, your position is being eliminated." Just like that. She didn't even have the guts to call it a firing. I stared at her. "You don't even know what we run here." She just smiled like she was already bored. "Facilities will escort you off property. You'll receive a 2-week severance by mail. Quick note, before listening, share which city or country you're watching from." I looked past her, hoping to see someone, anyone, who'd stand up and say this was a mistake. But nobody moved. I caught eyes with Jimmy from hydraulics. His face twitched, barely a shake of his head. Alicia gave me the smallest nod, biting her lip. I knew that look. People who wanted to say something but didn't want to get pulled down with me. Kelsey turned her back and started packing up my things into a cardboard box like I was already gone. She held my custom wrench up for a second, the one I'd etched my name in 2 years ago, then dropped it in the box with a tiny clink. "You've got a unique toolkit," she said, almost admiring it. "I'm sure it'll be useful elsewhere." She didn't touch the chipped mug that said "Safety Third" in peeling vinyl letters. That one, I grabbed myself, along with the photo of my dog Daisy, wedged behind my old terminal screen. Security was waiting outside the room like I was a shoplifter. One on each side, no words, just a silent walk through the park, while families screamed on rides I helped keep alive for 16 years. Half the monitoring systems out there still ran code I'd built on my lunch breaks. Nobody waved, nobody clapped. But the guys in mech ops all turned their backs on Kelsey as we passed. That was enough for me. As I crossed the parking lot, toolkit clanking at my side, all I could think about were the things buried deep in the system. The undocumented fail-safes, the lockouts, the nested routines. The things nobody else even knew existed. And the fact that she hadn't asked me for a single line of documentation. I didn't turn on the radio, didn't even touch the AC, just drove home with the windows cracked, toolkit on the passenger seat, Daisy's photo staring back at me. The parking badge was still clipped to my belt loop. I yanked it off at the red light and dropped it into the center console without looking. My house sat quiet like it always did. Mid-century ranch in Winter Haven, low roof, no HOA, no visitors. The garage door groaned open, and I pulled in, killed the engine, and just sat there for a second, letting the silence crawl back in. Then I went inside, straight to the back room where the real work lived. Not the paperwork Kelsey would eventually ask for, if she even figured out what was missing, but the server rack I'd been maintaining for almost a decade. Black box, humming quietly in the corner, lights blinking in rhythm like a heartbeat. I sat down, powered on the terminal, and logged in. The dashboard lit up. Ping, ping, ping. First came the red box under Maintenance Scheduler, Missed Cycle. Then, Predictive Logic. Loop Exception, Unhandled Fault in Recursion Call. Sensor Report, Hydraulic Channel 7, Data Out of Range, Failover Triggered, Maintenance Schedule. Fallback Mode, Active. No human would notice yet. That scheduler was built to run under the radar, predict repairs before they were needed, reroute loads, reduce downtime. But it needed my clearance to operate fully. My biometric profile, no fingerprint, no retina, no override. And Kelsey never asked. Not for documentation, not for handover, not even a damn password. I cracked open a soda, leaned back in my chair, and watched the alerts keep coming. Nothing catastrophic. Yet, but I knew the pattern. These weren't bugs. They were early signs of a system realizing it had no captain. Quick note, before we start, how's your day going and where are you joining from? She must have thought the system would just keep ticking like a wind-up toy. Most people do, until it doesn't. I scrolled through the logs, sipping slowly. Alert, Override attempt blocked. Missing clearance, EM. There it was, my initials hard-coded into the decision matrix. I'd added them years ago, mostly for audit trails. Wasn't trying to be cute or controlling. I just knew what happened when people started flipping switches they didn't understand. I checked the logs again. 10 different subroutines had already defaulted to safe mode. The scheduler had already backed off all optimization. Operating at baseline now. No forecast, no predictive repair calls. It wouldn't break the rides, but it let them rot quietly, inch by inch. I didn't feel smug. I didn't want payback. I didn't even feel angry anymore. I just sat there and watched the system sputter, knowing exactly how many months of duct tape and crossed fingers they had left before something real failed. This was never about revenge. I didn't have to lift a finger to make my point. The system was doing it for me, line by line, error by error. Another ping. Alert. Self-diagnostic. Loopback threshold breached. Retune required. Good luck figuring that one out, Kelsey. I reached down, scratched Daisy behind the ears, and smiled. Not wide, not proud. Just the kind of smile you make when the truth doesn't need explaining. Let them chase their ghosts. I had nothing left to prove. Monday morning came quiet. I was in the kitchen, leaning against the counter, watching Daisy chew through a stuffed raccoon she'd already de-squeaked. The soda can from last night was still half full, flat but cold. I took a sip and flipped open my laptop. 7:30 a.m. Right on time. That's when the diagnostic dashboard usually populated for daily checks. It didn't. No load bar, no analytics. Just a gray screen and a spinning wheel. Then a little red icon in the corner. Data source unavailable. I didn't have to guess who was staring at that screen in real time. Probably Dylan, the junior maintenance lead Kelsey barely acknowledged when she walked in last week. He was a kid, maybe 23, always double-checking everything. Smart, careful, wired like I used to be. Sure enough, my mirror server pinged a sync request from the park's mainframe. No result. System fallback initiated again. Same failure points. Behind the scenes, the predictive engine was throwing flags left and right. Not errors, not yet. Just warnings, pressure sensor mismatches, ghost alerts bubbling to the surface, and priority routes dropping to the bottom of the stack for no reason. Garbage in, garbage out. Quick note, while you're listening, tell us which country you're watching from. I clicked over to the internal network activity log. 2 maintenance techs were already digging into the logic layer. I recognized their device IDs. The system let them poke around until they tried to reroute a call chain. Access denied. Authorized only. EMI cracked my knuckles and logged the failure. Time-stamped it. Watched them try again. Same result. They had no idea what the hell they were looking at. And Kelsey? I could practically hear her voice already, brushing it all off. Probably went like, "It's just legacy scripting, right? We'll modernize it soon." Meanwhile, the alert prioritization was eating itself alive. Ride temperature spikes were getting classified below trash can tipped over. Something was wrong with the classifier weights. Predictive triage was now basically guessing. Still, nobody called me. No email, no text, not even a passive-aggressive LinkedIn message. Instead, I got something better. The old crew chatter. On the shadow Discord we used for night shifts and unlogged comms, messages started lighting up. Anyone got admin override creds? Scheduler's dead. We're flying blind. Who had final clearance on the loop logic? Did Elaine ever hand off the failovers? I just sat there in my hoodie, sipping flat soda, watching them realize they were neck-deep in a system designed by someone who actually gave a damn. Someone who didn't trust ops to make the hard calls and had built guardrails they didn't even know existed. More messages flew in. Can't patch the logic. It's locked. EM flag on the block. She did this? Number? She prevented this. Nobody said it directly, but I could feel the shift. From annoyance to worry. The new guy might be wearing the badge, but he wasn't in control. Not really. And still, I didn't move. Didn't reach out. Didn't offer help. I logged another failure. Noted the logic loop misfire. Saw the system try and fail to route a pressure surge alert. All of it was still within safe limits. Nothing public-facing. But give it time. They'd built their foundation on top of a machine they didn't understand. Now it was talking back. I closed my laptop and gave Daisy a scratch under the chin. Let them sweat. By Tuesday morning, the pattern was impossible to miss. Every 6 minutes, like clockwork, another failed login pinged across my mirror server. Same range of device IDs, same authorization failures. Someone was getting desperate. I took my coffee out to the porch and settled into the old wood chair Daisy liked to nap under. Florida sun creeping up, cicadas starting in. Terminal screen propped on the table. Still no contact from anyone. Inside the park, I knew exactly what was going on. The annual safety audit was 2 days away, and every manager in the building was probably chasing their tail. That predictive forecast report wasn't optional. It was the core of the whole compliance package. No forecast meant no data model. No model meant no proof of preventative action. And Kelsey? She was walking around the park like she owned it. I caught part of a leaked staff meeting on the back channel. Someone posted the audio clip. She sounded smooth, confident, completely blind. "I'll be handling the audit presentation this year," she said. "We're transitioning from legacy forecasting to a modernized solution." Someone, probably Benny from Ops, asked, "So, the report's ready?" "It will be. IT is handling access migration." I nearly spit coffee. Access migration. That system doesn't migrate. It's fingerprint locked, retina coded, calibrated on 8 years of seasonal performance. You don't migrate that. You live with it or you lose it. Quick note: before listening, share which city or country you're watching from. Back on my terminal, another failed attempt popped up. Device ID OPS MGR01. Check charts. Access denied. Biometric clearance required, EM. They'd finally realized the forecast engine was locked down separately from the rest of diagnostics. It ran on a different learning model, tuned on my personal interaction data, behavior flags, decision weighting, and biometric authentication. They didn't just fire a technician, they fired the key holder. Later that afternoon, IT opened an internal ticket flagged critical. I watched it populate in the backlogs. The notes were frantic. Cannot restore forecast access. No valid credentials. Attempted root override, blocked. Hard reset would delete all historic model data and invalidate audit scope. Model architecture undocumented. Developer no longer employed. I leaned back, let the sun hit my legs, and watched them sink. They had 2 options now: blow up the system and lose everything, or admit they didn't know how to drive the machine. The logins kept coming. 6-minute intervals, automated retry, different devices, same result. It was all out of their hands now. Daisy climbed up onto the porch next to me, tongue out, tail wagging like nothing in the world was broken. I scratched behind her ears, took another sip, and glanced at the failure count. 18 login attempts since sunrise, 18 rejections, 0 escalations to me. No one had the guts to pick up the phone, not yet, and I wasn't moving an inch until they did. Thursday came clear and hot. I was at my kitchen table, 3rd cup of coffee in hand, halfway through a 1,000-piece jigsaw puzzle of an old roller coaster, wood frame, twisted rails, 2 missing edge pieces I'd probably vacuumed weeks ago. The terminal was propped up beside me, humming like usual. At 8:02 a.m., right on time, the logs started rolling in. Audit day. Inside the park, the control room lights would be on full blast, HVAC struggling to keep up, everyone wearing branded polos and fake calm smiles. The annual inspection was the single biggest performance day of the year, and the first page of that audit packet was always the same: predictive maintenance forecast. It was the whole reason they kept the model running, the one I'd built, the one they couldn't access. My logs showed the connection request spike immediately. 6 simultaneous machines hitting the system, trying to launch the forecast engine. They got exactly what I expected. Access denied, authorized technician EMI could picture it. Big screen dead center in the control room, red text on white, maybe even a soft beep repeating every 3 seconds. Real subtle panic inducer. First came IT. I saw their credentials hit the server next. Attempts to kill the session, reroute the node, reboot the forecast core, all blocked, no clearance. Next, OPS MGR01 again. Kelsey, still denied. Quick note: before we go further, tell us which country you're watching from today. They tried manual override, then admin shell commands, then a restart on the data cluster. I sat back and placed a puzzle piece, corner of a rusted safety rail. Nothing moved in the logs. The model was offline, locked, and not responding to anything without my biometric token. And they knew it. They just didn't want to admit it yet. Then came the part I didn't get to see directly, but the back channel made sure I heard fast. A senior auditor stepped up and pointed at the screen. Why is her name all over this system? The control room went quiet. Nobody had an answer ready, not one that sounded good. Someone finally said it out loud. I think it was Raj from compliance. She was terminated 4 days ago. That set the room off. Multiple auditors asking questions at once. Who fired her? Why? Was there a knowledge transfer? Why wasn't the system migrated? They didn't have answers. They had Kelsey sweating through her blazer, stumbling over words like legacy and transition strategy. More logs came through, more override attempts. I watched the server block them all patiently, like a bouncer outside a lockdown club. I got up, grabbed another coffee, came back and placed 3 more puzzle pieces. The chain lift motor, the front car, and a kid with both arms in the air. The scene was coming together. They were unraveling and I hadn't said a word. No dramatic return. No revenge speech. No sabotage. Just absence. I leaned back and let the whole thing play out on my screen. 32 failed access attempts. System flag set to audit compromised. Reporting output disabled. My name glowing in red on every screen they had. By noon, the override attempts stopped cold. The system finally went quiet. Not because they'd solved anything, but because they'd hit the wall. The kind you don't climb over. The kind you have to admit exists. That's when legal stepped in. I watched the logs blink out, one by one. VPN dropped. Internal probe traffic cut in half. A deeper silence settled. Not technical this time. Corporate. I knew what that meant. Legal had reviewed the failure logs and traced the access trail backward. No documentation, no credential handoff, no active backups, no transition protocol. The report must have hit the park director's desk within the hour. His name was Tom O'Malley, old school. Started in janitorial, climbed all the way up. Not flashy, not soft, not clueless either. And definitely not the type to enjoy hearing that a 7-figure predictive system was unusable because someone got fired without thinking. According to the Shadow Channel, he cleared out a conference room and told the whole exec team to get in. No pleasantries, no donuts, no sugar. First question, who has access to the forecasting model? The room went quiet. Answer, Elaine Madsen. Next question, who else? Answer, just her. He didn't yell, didn't throw anything, just stood there holding a printout of a legal brief that said the park was about to fail its safety audit because no one could get into the one system designed to prevent disasters. Quick note, while you're listening, drop a comment with where you're watching from. It tried to defend themselves, said they'd spun up a sandbox to simulate the model from scratch, tried to replicate the weights, rebuild the logic, the usual patch job routine, but my system wasn't that simple. The predictive pipeline broke the second they tried to fake it. Missing flags, missing behavior chains, zero continuity. It wasn't just code, it was history. 8 years of maintenance cycles, operator behavior, weather overlays, fatigue tracking. You don't simulate that in a day. You live it or you lose it. The report said it straight. No way to produce compliant forecasting without original access. That's when O'Malley pulled up my personnel file. I imagine he flipped past all the spotless evaluations, the overtime logs, the project completions, the times I saved them from downtime during summer peak, and landed right on the last line in the notes. Indispensable but introverted, may resist authority. That was their read on me, not built the core systems from scratch, not predicted 3 mechanical failures before they happened. Just introverted, and now I was the only one who could save them from failing the biggest audit of the year. My phone lit up. Private caller. I let it ring twice. Sipped the rest of my coffee. Daisy didn't even look up. Third ring. I picked up. I didn't say anything right away. Just held the phone to my ear and listened. Silence on the other end. Then, Elaine, it's Tom O'Malley. His voice was lower than I remembered, measured, tired. I could hear background noise, a room full of people trying not to breathe too loud. The board's here, he said. They're staring at a screen that says, access denied, authorized technician EM. That's it. That's all we've got. I glanced at my terminal. 4 new login attempts blocked in the last minute. Sounds accurate, I said. He didn't laugh, didn't argue, just exhaled like a man who'd already fought every battle except the one that mattered. I need the system back online, Elaine. Now. I got up, walked to the counter, poured a glass of wine. Red, nothing fancy. Just the kind I liked when my feet were bare and the sun was down. You want a patch or a fix? I asked. I. What's the difference? I leaned against the sink and looked out the window. Patch means I turn it on, unfreeze the forecast, and walk away. Just enough to get through the audit. Then you're right back where you started. And the fix? You give me everything I had, plus what I should have had years ago. He waited, didn't push, didn't interrupt. Let me lay it out. I come back as full systems lead, reinstated, senior tech, no demotion crap. Direct reporting to you, no input from ops, especially not her. Done, he said, no hesitation. You'll need to put that in writing? I already have. HR's sitting next to me. I believed him. Guys like Tom didn't beg, they calculated. He wasn't calling out of desperation. He was calling because he'd done the math and I was the last number left. Quick note, before we continue, comment below with where you're watching from today. He added, you'll have full control. Title, access, budget line. And I'll handle the operations team myself. Copy of the agreement in my inbox before 8 a.m., I said. I'll be in tomorrow. He exhaled again. Thank you. I could hear the shift in his tone, from command to relief, like he'd been clenching his jaw for 2 days and it finally cracked loose. I'm not doing this out of loyalty, I said. I know, he replied. You're doing it because you built something worth protecting. We didn't say goodbye. I just hit end and placed the phone on the counter. Outside, the sky was turning purple at the edges. Daisy barked at something in the yard and flopped down in her usual spot. I sat back down with my glass, wiggled my toes on the tile floor, and refreshed the logs. They were still trying to get in. They wouldn't be for much longer. I walked in through the south gate, same way I always used to. No badge this time, just a nod from the guard, who looked like he wanted to say something but didn't. Smart move, it was barely 8. The air smelled like fried sugar and hydraulic oil. Nobody was on the rides yet, but the staff was everywhere, sweeping paths, unlocking food carts, pretending not to stare as I passed. I wore jeans, a gray t-shirt, and my old work boots. Same boots I wore when I helped install the first version of the maintenance grid. My toolkit was strapped across my shoulder, Daisy's photo still tucked into the mesh pocket, and on my laptop, tucked under my arm, was everything they needed and didn't understand. As I stepped into the admin building, I caught the whispering. Maintenance staff, guest operations, even HR. You could feel it, that weight in the air when people realize something important's about to happen and they're not part of the decision. I didn't stop to acknowledge any of it, straight to the control room. The board was already there, seated along the back wall like a firing squad without guns. Legal, HR, IT, all looking alert but not panicked, just waiting. Kelsey was standing near the center console, stiff-backed, arms crossed. She didn't say anything when I walked in. She looked pale, jaw clenched, like she'd been up all night pretending she had a plan. I set my laptop down without a word, pulled the cable, plugged it in, tapped a key. System spun to life. Main screen lit up. Diagnostics, live feed, forecast model, historical logs, predictive faults, all restored. 8 years of real-time data humming in sync, just like it was supposed to. I didn't gloat, didn't smile, just stepped forward and started talking. This, I said, tapping the screen, is the predictive model. It uses live sensor data from every ride system, hydraulics, pneumatics, control logic, and builds a forecast of failure points before they happen. Pressure spikes, circuit drift, motor load trends, it watches all of them. The board listened. Nobody interrupted. When the system went dark, it wasn't a bug, I continued. It locked out because its only cleared user was removed from the access list without protocol. No biometric, no clearance, no continuity. I pulled up the logs. These are the access attempts from the past 3 days. IT, ops, even guest services. All denied. Here's where it recognized unauthorized override attempts and activated the fallback cascade, which paused predictive waiting to avoid corruption. Then I clicked into my email archive. And these, I said, opening one message after another, are the emails I sent over the last 2 years offering to train a backup lead, or hand over the system if I ever left. All declined. I highlighted one line, read it aloud. Budget doesn't allow for cross-training at this time. We'll revisit if staffing changes occur. I let that hang in the air for a second. Nobody spoke. Kelsey still hadn't moved. Her face looked frozen. No more smirk. Just the flat white look of someone who knew she'd finally hit the wall. Quick note, if you've made it this far, tell us where you're watching from in the comments. I turned back to the screen. The system never failed. People did. Because they didn't ask how it worked. They assumed it would run itself. It doesn't. Tom O'Malley was standing near the door. He nodded once, barely. His hands were in his pockets. I closed the last window, unplugged my laptop, and slid it back into my bag. I'm ready to reintegrate the system into full operations, I said, but I'm only doing it once. Then I stepped back. The board didn't clap, didn't thank me. They just sat there, silent, watching Kelsey like she might still find a way to talk her way out of it. But she didn't say a word. The silence held for a beat too long. Then one of the board members, gray suit, wireframe glasses, voice like gravel, cleared his throat and asked the question everyone else was avoiding. Who approved her termination? Nobody moved. Nobody wanted to be first. But the room didn't have to guess. Every head turned toward Kelsey. She shifted her stance, uncrossed her arms. I followed standard procedures. The role was categorized as redundant legacy support. There was no documentation provided for her systems and no backup in place. I had no way to evaluate the full scope. I cut in, calm, clear. That's not true. She blinked. I pulled my laptop out again and opened the message archive. Project folder, system access, successor proposals. This is from March, I said, clicking it open. Proposal for phase transition. Budget declined. Another. From August, same year. Offer to cross-train a second technician. Response. Cost inefficient for current cycle. I looked up straight at her. And here, I said, pulling up the most recent one, is a request to document and log system workflows. I asked if we should prioritize it. Reply from operations, her signature said, and I quote, "We'll circle back if you resign. Otherwise, no need." The projector screen lit up behind me as I mirrored the audit trail, timestamps, email chains, her initials on every single block. She opened her mouth again. I could see the panic crawling behind her eyes now, but Tom O'Malley stepped forward before she could say a word. He didn't raise his voice. He just said, "This is done." Kelsey froze. No protest, no apology, nothing. Legal stood from their seat near the side wall, a folder already in hand. They'd come prepared. She looked around the room, probably expecting someone to speak up. No one did. Not a single nod, not a defense. Just blank expressions and chairs that didn't shift. She turned, walked out slow, like her legs were on delay. Nobody watched her go. Quick note, before we finish this part, drop a comment. Who do you think messed up the most in this story? The moment the door clicked shut, one of the board members looked at me. What do you need to restore the system permanently? Straight to the point. No flattery, no small talk. Just business now. I didn't flinch. Access credentials need to be centralized but permission-gated, full documentation staff, minimum 2-person redundancy, physical backups, behavioral tuning on a 6-month rolling basis. Another board member nodded. You'll write the policy? I already have it. Just need signatures. I closed the lid of my laptop and finally sat down in the chair they'd left open, the one at the head of the table. Not a throne, just a seat with a view of every system on the wall. And for the first time in 4 days, nobody tried to push me out of it. I adjusted the chair, planted my boots on the floor, and reopened the laptop. No hesitation, no second guessing. The screen blinked once, then the dashboard lit up. Green, yellow, blue. Graphs surged back into place. Real-time system diagnostics populating ride by ride. Load curves stabilized. Forecast projections reinitialized. Alerts reset to proper priority. The model relearned its rhythm in seconds, like it had just been waiting for the right hands to wake it up. I rotated the main screen toward the board so they could see what working looked like. One of them leaned forward, not to question, just to watch. This is live status, I said. Baseline predictive load, escalated flags, and behavior drift markers. Every ride, every subsystem logged and forecasted. Nobody spoke. They didn't need to. Tom O'Malley broke the silence. You'll report directly to me. New title, Director of Predictive Systems. Compensation package has been updated. Full autonomy. If you need staff, we'll get them. I nodded once. No smile, just acknowledgement. This wasn't a victory lap. It was course correction. I let the board watch the numbers pulse across the wall, like veins pumping blood back into a body that had flatlined. They didn't look amazed. They looked like people seeing something real for the first time. No applause, no back pats, just silence and attention. The kind of respect you don't ask for, the kind you earn by letting the work speak. I powered down the laptop, slid it into my bag, and stood. "Let's get the ride running again," I said. Then I walked out.